In this week's Roll of 24, episode 39 of John's Eclectic Photo Time Adventure series, I accomplished a wide variety of photo adventures. Before we begin, each week I select one photo to print large, a 17 by 22 print. This week I actually did two, a 4-frame Pano up at Meridian State Park and another out at a local community college. This is the 4-shot frame out there at Meridian State Park. And the second photo that I enlarged to a 17 by 22 was captured out at a local community college called Central Texas College. The thing's trying to catch my face. The week started off with me relearning how to operate and fly a Drone 2 Mini. My son had gotten this for me about 2 years ago, and I was using the iPhone 13. It's a DJI Mini 2. Anyways, I was using the Apple 13. I just had a hard time. I just upgraded to the 17 Pro Max and changed out the cable, and everything worked really well this time. And so I ventured out to a nearby lake called Stillhouse Lake, and I had to ensure that I was just outside of the actual park boundaries to legally fly the drone, because the Corps of Engineers does not allow drones in their airspace. So here is the first image that I captured with the drone. I'd been messing around with it for about 20 minutes or so. Then all of a sudden this family of four come down. Husband, wife, and his son and daughter-in-law, something like that, from Minnesota. They were visiting, and nothing like working under pressure. Here I am trying to get it all figured out. Got Charlie underneath a log. He's tired out from the walk, and then they show up and start talking, and I finally get the drone up in the air and got it about 4 feet up in the air and started clicking pictures to see what I would capture. In the end, though, I was kind of happy that the people were there. The father was helping me out by telling me how high the drone was, because the drone's straight up, and I have a plate in my neck in my C5, C6, compliments of the Iraq War, and I couldn't tell how high the drone was and where it was at. And so he was relaying the altitude and left, right, forward. And so I finally got the camera under control and slowly moved the drone over and captured this scene. So it was about 80 feet up in the air at this point. So you can see me in the green shirt down there, and then the other folks. And then up above me is a gentleman that was out there fishing. And I did ask him ahead of time. I said, hey, is it okay if I fly my drone? Because he was sitting in a lounge chair next to the water's edge. He had to carry that thing about 3/4 of a mile. And I didn't want to interfere with his relaxation. He said it was fine. So once I got that capture of the point, it looks like a battleship bow to me, or at least you'll see that in the next image of the point. So I started just rotating the aircraft left and right and just pushing the buttons to capture. Like I said, I've been so frustrated over the last 2 years with this drone, not wanting to yaw left or right, and that sometimes it would just do 360s. It would just get out of whack. So I was just so fortunate that I was able to get the control of the drone today, and it just, some of the pictures, I was just amazed at how I was able to capture. I just need to get out and practice more often with this drone. And so this image, that's the one I call this the battleship. You can see the gentleman down there fishing. You can see his fishing line going into the water. And this was really the image that I was trying to capture when I envisioned my trip out to the lake, because I'd been out to this point before shooting some seagulls off in the distance and some osprey. And so I was just, once I got this, then I was just having fun with the drone, moving it around, taking it other pictures. And so here is the last image that I took, and by now I'd been up for about 8 minutes. You get, for the DJI Mini 2, you get about 15 to 18 minutes of flight time based on what you're doing. So I slowly rotated, and I was really looking at this one. I really enjoyed the leading lines and how it curves and goes up along that ridge in the far background. On Tuesday, the 20th of January, we, being my lovely bride, Charlie, and I, traveled to Meridian Lake State Park. This turned out to be a 2-hour trip up north, and it took about 3 hours to get back home due to all the road construction and heavy traffic on I-35. Additionally, I used all three of my camera bodies, the Canon R5, the Canon R5 Mark II, and the Canon R6 Mark II, in addition to various lenses. Each photo has the camera and lens noted that was used to capture the frame. So I am out here at Meridian State Park in Texas. Here's a view. It is 5 o'clock on Tuesday, the 20th of January. The first frame actually captured out there at Meridian Lake State Park was a 7-frame Pano of the lake. I used a 135 prime. This was actually a recon mission out here to the lake for the Milky Way season that begins in April and May down here in Texas. While it was cloudy this date, the sky was lit at night from the city glow of Waco, which is about 35 miles to the east. And that was vital because the location I had selected at 152 degrees to the core of the Milky Way lines up just with the city of Waco. So I'm not sure if this location is going to be any good when Astro season gets here. Of course, I'll go out 2 or 3 nights, give it a try, but the city glow might be too much. As I just mentioned, this is a 7-frame panorama out there at Meridian Lake State Park, or Meridian State Park Lake. Not sure. I got to reread the information. But this is taken with the 135 prime. I started on the right-hand side and slowly went around to the left. Did about a 30% overlap. And it's rather large. And I cannot print this off on my Image Pro 1000, or at least I don't know how to do it. I know I'm supposed to be able to do a 42-inch print, but I need to get a roll of paper. So after the wife and I and Charlie got the little mini camp set up, we didn't set up a tent, but we did get the fire pit going. I did rent a space. It was Campsite 31, and I just wanted to, it's $15 at the state park, so it's not a big expense. And I just wanted to have a place that I could stay for several hours, wait till nightfall, so I could do some test frames to see how well this is going to work for Milky Way season. So anyways, Charlie and I went for a walk, and I just enjoyed this overhang of rocks and the trees and the rocks making a stair step up the hill. Yeah, one of the things I'm always struggling to try and capture is just a lone tree. Like I see a lot of other photographers on YouTube. Here's a lone tree. Let's photograph it. Every time I find a lone tree, it's just full of clutter and everything else. But I did do my best on this one. I did do a 5 exposure bracket on this so that I could get the clouds to come out. And so while I was looking one way, the wife pointed out, hey, there's some ducks out there. And so I switched over. I believe I have the 200 to 800 on here. I did not have the 1.5 teleconverter on. And so it's not the best pictures, not the greatest detail or anything, but it was good to capture the ducks. They have a sharp beak when you really zoom in. It's like, wow, that is an interesting beak for a duck. And then here's just another series of the same ducks. This time they were spread out. The first one's a little speed demon racing along. But it was just really super. That was about it. Nobody else was on the lake. Nobody else was at another campsite. I think we had 4 people walk by on a trail that's just literally right there in front of the campsite. So that's kind of questionable. As if you're camping out overnight, you're going to have people walking by your location all the time. So we'd been at this campsite for probably about an hour, hour and a half, and I look up at this big dead tree, and there's a blue heron sitting perched up there. And didn't see it fly in. Neither of us saw it fly in. So we figured it had been up there for about an hour, hour and a half. And I took a lot of frames of it. Really hard to get focus on the eye, which this one was successful with all the small branches around. And I cropped this one down to a 1x1 to eliminate all the dead stuff. And then later on, probably about 30 minutes later, this buzzard comes flying in and chases off the blue heron. And then eventually 2 more of these buzzards show up. And we're looking around the campsite. It's like there's nothing dead here. But they sat above our heads up in this tree, probably about 30 yards away. Yeah, probably for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, right before sunset. And at this point, I pulled out the R6 Mark II and I'd put on the 10 to 20 because I used that during Astro, the F4. And I got the camera sitting in my lap, and Charlie comes up and just shoves his nose right into the lens. And thank goodness I had it turned on and my finger on the trigger button, so I just held it down. And this was one of the cutest ones that turned out. And this is a 4-frame Pano that I showed you earlier that I printed off as a 17 by 22, and it came out really good. Now this is about 7 o'clock at night. It's already dark, and once I took this picture and stitched it together inside of Lightroom, I only had to do drop the increase the shadows, drop the shadows, increase the highlights a little bit. But it was just amazing how bright it was out there with that light. And that bright light down there at the far end of the lake, that's coming from the city of Waco, about 35 miles away. On Friday, the 23rd of January, I had plans to take Charlie out to a local park. When I opened the front door, thick fog greeted me, just super thick. So a change of plans and off to the local community college for some photos. On the way home, a train caught my eye and a quick turnaround on the road, very safely. And that's going to be the last 2 photos in this series. So as I just mentioned, we don't get real thick fog that often down here in Texas, and this was just a rare occurrence. And I knew right away that I wanted to go over to our local airport, and I went out and took some pictures near my house of the high school and some other things, but you just couldn't see it, even from the road, probably about 500 feet away. So I went over to the local community college, Central Texas College, and this is out front of the student union at around 30 in the morning, so catching the students moving from one class to another. So from the student union, the last picture, I stayed over there and I just walked across the street and I wandered around down below, and those pictures are coming up. But this was on my return walk back up, and on the right-hand side is the Anderson building, named after the former chancellor. He was a chancellor out there for 35, 36 years. And then again, the student union is over there on the left-hand side, and I captured 2 students walking down the pathway. So this is behind the student union. They have a seating area out there. There's probably about 5 or 6 tables, but this was the only table that had the umbrella up. And I just love the contrast of the bright red umbrella against the wet and, as you can see in the background, very thick fog. And I was just having a fun time moving throughout the campus, taking all these fog pictures. So about 400 feet past that red umbrella, a little bit of story behind this picture is it had a real gentle incline, probably about 5 degrees. Anyways, 1 step and I was on my butt. Smacked my left elbow, smacked my left hip, and I was just almost landed on top of Charlie, and I was just cussing and cursing at myself, and I was like, you know what? I'm already down here. So frustrated. Thank goodness nothing happened to the camera. It was on a strap, so it did not go flying away. So I grabbed the camera, turned it on, and took about 20 pictures, and I just loved how this one turned out. And once again, I found after I extricated myself from the ditch by going in, I did find this one lone tree. Still had a lot of leaves on it, and I just loved all the red leaves that down there that were congregating in the water down on the right hand side. I thought this was just an interesting perspective. I've done a couple other things where I've tried to get low on a subject, and I turned around after shooting that tree and I started walking up the slope, and this one student was walking through underneath the overhead, and I was like, this is the get below the subject that I've always been looking for, and the fog just really added to the scene. While that student continued to walk from right to left, I made my way up there to where they were just at and stopped and turned to my right. And I just loved the leading lines. I think I did a pretty good job of getting it lined up, centered, and everything else. But, anyways, you can still see how thick the fog was out there. So, this was my last capture out there at CTC. This is just a lone tree out there at the end of the parking lot. And like I said, the fog was just so thick. You can see I did not manipulate this inside a Lightroom to create more fog. I did not do any dehazing or anything. I did add a little more color into the tree because it was kind of hard to see. But just a very interesting day with all the fog. So with that last tree shot out there at CTC Community College, I thought my day was done, and then I'm driving back home, and I get on this road called Elms Road heading back east, and there's a train out there. Belongs to a nightclub that's been closed for many years now, but I just saw that, and just really interesting. I think it's called something Junction Station or something, but you can see part of the building of the bar. And as I said, so this is the train. And once again, I did not have to do any dehazing or anything more in the background to obscure anything. I think I did remove one piece of trash that was up near the foreground. But even with all that, the colors just really popped on the train and everything else. And I thought it was just an interesting juxtaposition of the train out there in that parking lot and the colors, and you could barely see the cars passing in the background. So I hope you enjoyed this new installment, series episode 39 of Roll of 24 for the week of 19 to 25 January. If you did enjoy this, please consider subscribing and hit that like button. I would appreciate it. Thank you. Enjoy the day.